Anyways, the word or. How does the word or work? What if I tell you that on those particular tasks, if I say take something out of one or take something out of the other, there's actually one thing that becomes very important when I do this. If I tell kids, please take a toy, and then I say either pick an action figure or pick a Disney character. And they look at this and they say, well, it's this or this. But what happens if there's an overlap? What if there's an action figure Disney character? If I count it in the action figure and then I count it in those, and I just simply add them together, I would actually have done what? Overcounted. So the first thing that we have to worry about on or is that if we would say take from A or B, but, and this is important, the intersection of the two has to be empty. Because really when I ask you to do A or B, what I'm really is, well, we already even have a mathematical symbol for that. Right? The union. What's the cardinality of the union? It's just simply how many A's do you have, how many B's do you have, as long, this is important, as long as they share nothing. If they share something, we've got a problem, and it actually forms an overcount. We're going to have to worry about that a little bit. This particular rule, and if I have many sets, if I say take something from A1 or A2 or up to AN, what do? I take A1 and then A2 and then just simply add AN as long as each are, what's the word for an empty intersection? Starts with the D. Disjoint. As long as they're disjoint, we would just simply add up the rules. This is called the sum rule. So we have the product rule. It uses the word and it's going to be multiplication of quantities. If it uses the word or, we have the sum rule, which we're going to add those quantities. Now, on the other hand, we could actually put them both together. These are not independent from each other. So an example that would use both. So how many ways to fill out a bubble sheet exam if you allow for answer A, B, C, D, and no answer is okay. And we have 10 problems. Oh, let's make it more complicated. 10 are the multiple choice. Of the 10, we have 8 multiple choice. But on the other one, we have 2 that are just simply true, false. So I have 10 problems, multiple choice, multiple choice, multiple choice, multiple choice, and it's A, B, C, D on the multiple choice, but I allow you to leave it blank if you want. And then the last 2 are true or false, but obviously you pick true or false, right? There is no such thing as true and false. There's nothing that's neither true nor false. We're using only propositions. One must be true, one must be false. How many ways for this to happen? Well, counting problems are literally, how would I do this? How would you fill out the exam? Let's start using some English words. How do you literally fill out the exam? Just think about it. Just put it into words. What would you do first? All right, put our name on it. All right, second. All right, what would you do to fill it out? We would go to the first problem and do what? We would mark it. or not. Everybody okay with that? Then you would go to the second problem. Well, wait a second. How would you go to the second problem? Would you do problem 1 or problem 2? Or would you do problem 1 and problem 2? And then you would do and problem 3. And then you would do and problem 4, right? So if I would look at this, we would sit there, how do you solve this? Well, we solve it in the following way. How to fill it out. Now, most of the times you're not going to write this down. You would do problem 1 and problem 2 and problem 3 and and problem 10, right? The word and. What is that and eventually going to be replaced by? Which rule? The product rule. It's going to become a multiplication. Now, all right, fine. You told me you're going to do problem 1. How do you do problem 1? We fill in the bubble, right? But how do you fill in the bubble? Fill in the bubble. How do you do that? I could fill in what? I could fill in a English word.
Wait, I have a question about the multiple choice.
Yes.
Can you have more than one answer?
No, I said pick one or blank.
Okay.
So it's one or blank.
Okay. Just one more.
Right. No more than one. So what could I do? To fill in the bubble, what do? I would do A or B or C or D or none. Well, how many ways can you fill in an A? There's only one way. I just fill it in, right? So there's one way to do that one. How many for B? One. How many ways for C? One. How many ways to do D? One. How many ways to do none? One. What are those ors? So what is fill in the bubble? Fill in the bubble is actually 5. Where did the 5 come from? It's from the sum rule. Now, if this is more complicated, what if there was 3 ways to do A? I don't know how you could possibly do that, but there's 3 ways for you to do this. Oh, actually, I suppose you could let the person, I'm okay with you fill it in or you put an X. Oh, but only on the A. All the others have to be filled in. I have no idea why you do that. So we could fill in the bubble. There's 5 ways to do that, but I use the sum rule to do it. But on the other hand, for that only occurs for the first what? 8. 9 and 10 are how many possibilities? 2, because it's either true or false. 1 plus 1, 2. So 10 just has 2. Why? Because it's true or false. 1 plus 1. Yep.
Can you leave those problems blank?
No.
Okay.
Because in true or false, we're talking only propositions. It's either true or false, but not both. Or neither. I suppose it could be a neither. It's like, that's a question. I guess we did allow that. Like, is this, I can have things like this. I put a sentence and you're supposed to say if the proposition is true or false. And I put in, Mark is the best teacher of all time. And you would mark neither, because it's what? It's an opinion, not a proposition. I suppose you could get away with that. Then it would be 3, but I'm not going to.
Or you can leave it blank if you ran out of time.
Yeah, yeah. All right, so what would be the answer? Problem 1 is 5. Problem 2 is 5. Problem 3 is 5. Problem 4, problem 5, problem 6, problem 7, problem 8, problem 9, problem 10. What is it? That many ways. I squared it in my head and went straight to 4. Now, the back of the book would give you that, right? And there's nothing worse than a lot of times being given that, because if you're off, it gives you no idea on where you messed up, right? When I want you to hand in your work, you can do your work and check to see the back of the book and say, ooh, that's wrong. right? Why is it wrong? Doesn't usually give you a hint, right? But on the other hand, if you leave it like this, I like that because when I grade it, I know where you made your mistake. Because a lot of students will do this. And if you multiply that all out, I'm just like, well, I don't. But on the other hand, if you leave it is in terms of the multiplications without multiplying and adding as much as possible, it allows me to look at it and say, I know exactly where you made your mistake. You made your mistake on this problem in misunderstanding whether you're using and an or. So this is the beginning of advanced counting, right? What could you do? I could have lined up every test, of which there are, what is that? 1,562,500 tests, and counted them. 1, 2, 3, 4. Or I just jumped to the answer. There are 5 to the 8th times 2 to the 4th. Is everybody okay with that? So this is advanced counting. But also as a programmer, you need to think, how would you actually spit out all 1,500,000 something tests? Could you think of a process that would do it? Well, guess what? See those ands and ors, these problems right here? These ors and these ands tell you how to generate it. You would just simply make a nested loop and index through it one at a time. And then you would say, how many did I get? Okay. Another problem on this is a question of